Tales told around the world. Stories retold by Lisa Harkrader. Illustrations by Tracy Sabin. Inviting the Bears. A folk tale told by the Tlingit people of southern Alaska and western Canada. Once an old man lived alone because he'd lost his family and friends. His enormous cedar house was now filled with loneliness, an unwelcome visitor that stayed until it touched every corner, and the man could no longer stand its company. "I must leave," he said, and set off into the woods. He soon stumbled upon a stream where bears were fishing for salmon. The bears were large, the fabled grizzlies of the Northwest. The largest stood taller than 2 men, and his fur was tipped with white. When the grizzlies saw the man, they grunted and growled and, led by their great white-tipped chief, leaped at him across the water. The man trembled in fright. He couldn't run, for bears could run faster. He couldn't climb a tree, for bears could climb higher. In desperation, he stood straight and tall. "Stop!" he cried. "I've come to invite you to a feast." To his amazement, the white-tipped chief snorted and sniffed at the other grizzlies, and the bear stood still. "I'm all alone," the man continued. "I've lost my family and friends. Come to my house tomorrow, and I will serve you a tremendous feast." The white-tipped chief snorted again, and the bears returned to their stream. The man raced back through the forest to his house. He spread fresh sand around his fireplace, started a blazing fire, and gathered food. The people of the village watched. "What are you doing?" they asked. When the man explained that he had invited bears to a feast, they shut themselves in their houses. "Bears are our enemies," they cried. "You've invited our enemies into our village." But the next day, the man decorated his arms and chest with stripes of red paint and stood outside waiting for the bears. They lumbered from the forest, and the man led them into his house. He offered the white-tipped chief a place of honor, and then he served the bears a feast of cranberries and salmon. When they finished eating, the chief turned to the man and began snorting and sniffing, grunting and growling, as if giving a speech in his own bear language. Then the bears all lumbered to the door. When they filed past the man, each bear licked the red paint from the man's chest and arms, as if licking his sorrow away. The next day, the smallest bear returned, this time in human form. "I'm a man who was adopted by the bears and became one of them," he explained. "When our leader spoke yesterday, he said that he too is old and has lost his friends. He told you to think of him when you are mourning for your lost loved ones." From that day on, whenever the Tlingit gave a feast, they would invite an enemy and become friends with him, just as the old man did with the bears. Princess Green Bird. A folk tale told by the Zapotec people of southern Mexico. There once was a Zapotec princess who lived in a palace in a vast valley in the heart of the Zapotec lands. She spent her days in her garden, listening to the chirps and calls of the birds, and thinking of a man of the valley whom she loved and planned to marry. The princess's father ruled the entire valley. He was a powerful king, but he wanted to be more powerful still. One day the king sent for his daughter. "You will marry the son of the king who rules the mountains. Then the mountain king and I will rule all the Zapotec lands from the valley to the sea." "No, father," the princess said defiantly. "I love someone else. I cannot marry this prince." "You can," said the king, "and you will." "I can't," said the princess, "and I won't." To punish her for disobeying, the king transformed his daughter into a bird. She was gorgeous. Her green feathers gleamed in the sunlight, and her green-feathered head tilted in a regal manner. But she knew the man she loved could never love a bird in return. Heartbroken, Princess Greenbird flew away into the forest. The birds of the forest built a nest of branches to shelter her. They brought delicious grains to feed her and flowers to cheer her. But Princess Greenbird would not be cheered. She longed for home and for her old familiar life as a princess. One day 2 eagles flew to her nest. "We have sad news," they informed her. "Your father, the great king, has died." This was sad news indeed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?